All right, this is One Last Midnight. Welcome back to another episode of Astroneer. Today we're going to talk about automatic bytes and how you can get them infinitely, and then also what I think is the best byte collection system out there. I've talked about the automatic byte farm before. Matter of fact, I have a video dedicated to setting this up. It's pretty easy. You just need an auto armor research chamber and some power, and of course some area where research samples spawn. Now, I happen to be on the side of a mountain, but this could easily be inside of a cave, and you just turn on the auto arm and also turn on your research chamber, and it will just research these bytes for you. Every time this respawns, it'll pick it off and it'll put it inside of the research chamber, and you can have infinite running endless bytes forever. Now, you can set these up various different ways. You can put some interim storage on here just in case these collect faster than they research. Typically, these research anywhere from like 4 to 5 minutes, and these respawn within 10 minutes. So it's good to have some sort of like interim storage in here to collect the samples for you and feed it into the chambers, or even have multiple chambers running so that you can process all of these bytes more quickly. I tend to set these systems up in multiple places, typically on the outside of a base and then also down into the cave system. Just anywhere where you have a large cluster of these little research samples is a good place to have them. I've run an entire game off of just setting up 7 of these, 1 on each planet, and just up against the plants. I was able to get enough bytes over half an hour period of time to just continue to keep advancing the game, kind of like a slow state. But it wouldn't be too hard if you turn around and it was immediately once you get a shuttle, go to Glacio and set some of these up in the caves in Glacio, and you will have a ton of bytes very quickly and forever. With the introduction of the proximity repeater, the game has kind of changed for byte collection. You can now have vehicle byte collection systems set up where it's either automatic or it's a manual process. In this case, on this buggy here, I have it set up just 1 proximity sensor. So when I'm inside of the buggy, I'm using that alternate activation key once I'm near some bytes to set the proximity sensor off. You could also set up 2 proximity sensors that are very close next to each other so that once you turn on a proximity sensor, it activates the second proximity sensor, causing this to be in kind of like an endless loop. And then all you have to do is drive around. You don't have to worry about any kind of activation. As soon as you get close to some sort of bytes, it automatically picks it up for you. And again, these systems can be set up on various different vehicles. You can even set up an automatic system on a tractor as long as you have the power in the back somewhere on a trailer and you have a couple different proximity repeaters right next to each other. Something like this. The radius of this is not that great. It's just a little circle kind of in front of the tractor, but it's enough to be able to gather bytes pretty quickly just by driving around. While the medium rover is not as fast as the buggy is, I tend to like this system if I'm going to use some sort of rover to collect my bytes. The large rover is great if you want to get more area space. You can set it up with 4 proximity sensors. So when you activate 1, you have the entire radius around the vehicle collecting bytes as you drive by. But the vehicle's a little bit slower and a little bit clunky, especially when you get into mountain areas. So it might not be the best solution for you. Once you have these proximity sensors on and they're actively running, the way to deactivate them is to move a proximity sensor out of range so it no longer activates the other one. Once you get it back into range of another one, though, it will reactivate again. So just make sure that you get these all deactivated. Another way to use the proximity repeater is to find these group of plants that have a lot of research samples next to it. This example has, I think, like 8 research samples, which is a nice little haul. And to set up some sort of timer to use to activate the plants. The plants will regrow, same with the caves, in roughly about 10 minutes. And you don't have to turn around and activate this timer over and over again. Matter of fact, I highly recommend putting on even a longer timer because there's no sense in having this run on and continue to keep firing if nothing is going to happen. Set it up for something like a minute or maybe 2 minutes, and you'll catch these plants just fine. Another way to use the proximity repeaters to gather research is to just do like we did on the vehicle, which is turn one on and then have them automatically trigger each other. Look, there are people out there that are saying, go ahead and do this. This is the best way to do this. I highly recommend not doing this. Back in the day when they introduced automation and you set up some sort of timer like this switch that would automatically trigger another thing and it would just do it over and over and over and over again, caused problems. I have a feeling that people that are using this system are having some sort of automation problems or saying that the automation does not work correctly. I don't think that this works the way that it's supposed to work. So I've stayed away from doing this type of activation unless it's on a vehicle and I know I'm going to be doing it for a limited amount of time. Your mileage may vary. I have no idea if System Era fixed this problem or not, but I don't recommend doing it. I recommend the best way doing this is just setting up a timer and having it fire off maybe once every minute so that you know you're going to get the research samples. Setting it up like this, once again, I don't know, you might possibly be causing yourself some problems in the long run. It did in the past, so I typically just don't do it. Another vehicle configuration you can set up, and this was recommended to me by Hole612, is the Vtol Byte collector. You have two proximity sensors, one on each side. You activate them. They fire off each other, so they're constantly on, and you jump in the VTOL and you fly away. When you get close to some research samples, it'll automatically pick up research samples for you. This is a really cool way to get bytes, but I found out that it's a little bit of a pain in the butt because you're constantly having to adjust your height. And also, honestly, by the time you get the VTOL, typically you're not really going to need bytes anymore anyways. But honestly, one of the best and most exciting ways I found to collect bytes is to use that kind of concept of the proximity repeater along with the hoverboard. Make sure you have several of the space snails with you, Sylvie to give you oxygen, Stilgar to give you air, and the very least Princess to protect you from damage. Grab yourself your hoverboard, and you want to get a medium T platform, activate your proximity sensors, pick that sucker up, and just fly around. Go to a planet that has a lot of research samples laying around, either on the surface or inside of the cave system, and just hover over research samples. You can just fly over the surface and kind of like wave your magic wand, and you'll wind up picking any research samples that are just laying around on plants, or if you're inside of the caves that are on caves. Of course, I'm showing you this example, and unfortunately, I've kind of picked this area a little bit clean, but there you go. You get the idea. Just fly around, and next thing you'll know is you'll have many, many bytes really, really quickly. This is very effective inside of the caves where you have an abundance of research samples. But I like flying around on the surface too. I mean, it maybe not as much research samples on the surface, but sometimes you get lucky and you get that batch, that big, huge cluster of research samples, and it's pretty satisfying. Just like this. Just make sure that any solution that you do to collect bytes that uses the proximity sensors that are cooked together like this, make sure you disconnect them when you're done with it. Otherwise, it might cause some sort of problem within your game. All right, well, that's it for me. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Would love to have you in the community. If you want to follow me on any of my social media, you can find the links in the description below. And make sure to hit that notification bell. That way you know when I go live and when I post new videos. I'll talk to you later. See ya. Bye-bye.